Be seen as beautiful in the eyes of God. I believe this should be our goal and our North Star. And this should be the thing that we put every action up against and say, would God think this action beautiful? Would God hold me to be better, more beautiful in His eyes from this action being done? And I think if we make this our North Star, all of our other potential North Stars that we should be aiming at are along the way. And this is will achieve them as a byproduct of this one goal. Now, I think this is a very good thought experiment. Not even a thought experiment, but a way of thinking where we can get into a mindset of what is best for us. Because clearly, I think any action we think would be beautiful in the eyes of God would be beautiful in our hindsight. We would look back with it with pride, with fulfillment, with joy. And I think it will lead us to a place of peace and tranquility because we'll have nothing to regret. And so often it seems like that in and of itself is the thing that steals our peace. That in and of itself is the thing that takes our tranquility, is regretting how we acted in the past, regretting the things that we once did and the things that we may do because of who we are. But if you are, if you have a character that is completely virtuous, then what is there to worry about? What is there to worry about for future events if you act in accordance with your nature, virtuous, and you are content with the will of God and you have the will of God within you? What is there to worry about? What is there to fear? What is there to think that what is there to befall you that will harm you? Nothing. Therefore, you have nothing to worry about in the future. Just want what happens to happen. Just have a will that wills what God wills. And I think peace and tranquility are the byproduct of this. And I've been speaking on God a lot recently. And I'm currently reading, for the second time, Meister Eckhart's Selected Writings. And I read this the first time trying to forcefully be a Christian, trying to trying so hard to believe in God and that Jesus is God. And I enjoyed the book very much, but it almost felt like a chore. It almost felt like I was forcing something that shouldn't be forced. And reading it for the second time, I've already feel so much more beauty not being confined to the Christian faith, because I am no longer confining myself to it. I do believe in God, but I don't believe in a God. I don't believe in a God that you can give a name or any of the religious gods. I believe in God. Maybe, and I think God is part of God is the still small voice, but I also think He is out, but He is also within. As above, so below. Um, but as I think, unless I say otherwise, in the future, that'll be the God I speak of. And that is today the God I speak of as well. That is what we have to try to be beautiful in the eyes of. Because I think even if you don't believe in God, there is something you can easily imagine an ideal. The perfect being, something wholly, completely virtuous in and of itself. And you can imagine what that being approves of and disapproves of. And if you can hold each and every one of your actions to that standard, that is what it means to be beautiful in the eyes of God. And that's what it means to be beautiful in the eyes of yourself. Standing on principles, upholding values that you preach. And when you do that, you can be wholly and utterly content with yourself. And you can live a life knowing that forever and always you've done your best. And all you ever did was what you thought was beautiful. And what else can anyone ask of you? Now, I have wanted to be, I go back and forth believing in God. And that's why I think it's just valuable to view, as I say, beautiful in the eyes of God, just as that supreme ideal that I think we all can imagine. We all can think about what a supreme ideal would be, and we can try to live up to that. I think just giving it the name God, I don't believe there's anything wrong with that. But you know, as I said a second ago, I've tried to be religious. I've tried to believe in God, as in Jesus or Buddha. I have a bunch of Bibles. I have the Bhagavad Gita, the Napada, the Upshadas. I have Hinduism texts. I have Chinese texts. I have Christian. I have multiple Bibles. I have Meister Eckhart, a mystic. I have Saint Augustus, Thomas Aquinas, City of God, Saint Augustine. And not to say that these men, these people, are not virtuous people, because I do think Jesus has probably lived up to the ideal of what I believe is the perfect human best. But one thing that turns me off from religion, and it probably shouldn't, but it does, is that I see and at times I am more humble than at this moment, let's say. But right now, I just feel personally that I've witnessed no one more pious than me, in person. I've witnessed no person who spends their time in the faith who doesn't give in to vices that I've been able to crush, that I've been able to get rid of, that I've been able to defeat with philosophy, with reading some religious texts, but not just to one sect, but multiple branches of different, mysticism. I mean, to my knowledge, Meister Eckhart was put to death for his beliefs, and he was a priest in the Roman Catholic Church for his views not being in accordance with Christianity. And it just seems to me that it's always, I don't know, the people, like the lukewarm people, put me off of religion, because I see no one fully in it. And philosophy, I believe, has helped me more than any of the other things. And I see no example to show me otherwise. I sometimes think, what would be the best example to prove to people that philosophy, you know, is a worthy pursuit to pursue. And I can think of no better example than one's life, how one lives, how one doesn't worry, how one is kind, how one is virtuous, how one wants exactly what happens to happen, how one is at peace and has tranquility. So those are the things that I try. I mean, obviously we all want, but I believe when I can show that outwardly, that is the biggest testament to the power that philosophy has. And I personally see that. I personally don't see that. And I mean, any of the religions. I mean, there is religious people, I'm sure, who surpass me. And it isn't about surpassing and not surpassing and any of that stuff. But what my point is that if you want to if you want to show that what you believe in is quote unquote the best or worthy of belief, or what you pursue is worthy of pursuit, what better than real life results and real life fulfillment, happiness, peace, tranquility? And I just simply don't see that. And I simply don't see the virtue that these things preach. And I guess that was just a little side note. But truly, to be beautiful in the eyes of God, I don't think you need to be religious. I think God can just be a word. To me, it's more. But it can be just a word that you have associated with an ideal that you've made as that thing that always makes the right decision. And try to be seen as beautiful in the eyes of that thing. And you can make it an idea. You can make it a real God. It can be Jesus. It can be Buddha. It can be Muhammad, even though I think Muhammad's a prophet. I don't know. I'm not well versed in that area at all. Um, but I think you get the point. And I will probably speak on God more and just know that it isn't tied to any one in particular faith. And at times, it won't even be tied to a thing or a being. It will be tied to an ideal that I have imagined in my mind, that I think we all can imagine as a perfect being of what we can hold each and every action against and say, what would he think? Because I think that's a way that it's an easy way to get to an unbiased view of our actions. I think I should do this because of this and that. What would God think? He would think that is selfish. Okay. It's a way to detach from yourself and view the situation unbiasedly. And I mean, that's almost how not completely, but that's almost how we view past events, because our emotions aren't tied to the thing anymore, not as much at least. And as it says behind me, I don't know if you can see it. Oh no, I got the books in the way. Oh no, it's right there. You no longer think deeply of the hazards. You will not see them in your future memories. That's the same thing with what I'm saying. The past, you can view it so much more unbiasedly because you can look at your past and say, it wasn't that bad. Those were the good old days. And then someone can remind you how miserable and wretched and depressed you were in those days. And you can say, oh, yeah, kind of was. But you don't remember the hazards. You don't remember the worries you had. All you remember is what was happening. And what was happening was good or not good. It was neutral. Things are neither good nor bad. But what was happening, you did enjoy, but you brought negative thoughts to it and you ruined your present. But those negative thoughts, when you view back into the past, are gone, and it's bliss. It's the good old days. It's happiness. It's, I wish I could go back to those times. And that's just another way to view a situation unbiasedly, and how I think, as I said, in the present, you can get to that position from viewing an ideal that has no stake in your investment, that has no stake in the present moment, one way or the other. It's just a unbiased thing that says, I approve, I disapprove.